Hello, my name is Therese Kaitis, and I am a student at UW in the program on the environment. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my internship with Washington State Department of Natural Resources, or DNR, and my project, The Sound of Science. What can songbirds tell us about forest ecosystems on the Olympic Peninsula? As we know, forests are essential for people, and they are home for wildlife. DNR strives to balance ecosystem health with forest resources. And to understand how they can do that, they are listening to the birds. Birds are an indicator species, meaning they can tell us a lot about the function and health of an ecosystem. So acoustic recorders were placed out into the forest in 4 different forest management areas, so 4 different forest types, basically. And they collected audio data of birds back in 2020. And the goal was to find out where birds are using the forest. What habitat types are they occupying? Are they in areas we would expect based on what we know about their habitat preferences? And how might aircraft and rain impact their occupancy or our ability to hear them? So my job with DNR was to listen to these audio surveys and analyze them as spectrograms to detect the occurrence of these 10 indicator bird species, also noting things like aircraft noise and rain. And once all of this data had been compiled, I used it to take a closer look at 2 birds on our list. The first is the Pacific slope flycatcher. And this bird is known to prefer more mixed forest, likes deep shade, humid areas. And then the second bird is the orange-crowned warbler, which tends to prefer a more early, young forest, open habitat, but really depends on a healthy deciduous shrub layer. So wanted to know, are these birds, occupying these areas? Are they where we would expect to find them? So after doing some occupancy modeling, I did a little research as well, and we found that the Pacific slope flycatcher was found overwhelmingly in 3 of the 4 forest stages, stem exclusion, thinned, and mature, with very few observations in the early seral forest. And looking at the orange-crowned warbler, this bird was found almost exclusively in stand initiation areas. And interestingly, for both birds, aircraft noise had a positive correlation with detection. And rain, as we would expect, had a slight negative correlation with detection. So that could mean that either we just can't hear the birds through or over the rain, or perhaps birds are quieter during rain events. The result with the aircraft being a positive correlation with detection is pretty curious, and it is an emerging and interesting area of research, looking into how anthropogenic noise impacts wildlife. So that was an interesting finding. Why is all of this important? It's important because by understanding how birds and other wildlife use the forest in different forest stages, management strategies can then focus on preserving and improving a range of habitat, not just for these birds, but for all of the other birds and species that depend on our forests. But as we know, biodiversity loss is happening at unprecedented rates, and forest resources are under increasing demand. So sustainable forestry means really protecting these ecosystems for health of wildlife, but also for continued values for humans. So it's really all connected. So this study was a really interesting way of looking and listening to the ecosystem and getting a better understanding on how we can protect it for both wildlife and people. I'd like to thank my site supervisors, Dr. Teodora Minkova, DNR, and Lauren Keeney for really helping me through this project and teaching me so much. I'd also like to thank my faculty advisor, Tim Billow, for all of your knowledge on birds and trees. and I'd like to thank you all for listening.